What's up, y'all? My name is Jamison Ross, and it feels good to be here with the Buzz.
I need you to tell me you love me, I can't take no more. Tell me you love me, I can't take no more. I really need you, I need your voice. Tell me you love me.
The music hit me early. I grew up in a very musical family. My dad was a musician, songwriter. My mom sang. My uncles played and sang. Everybody in my family loved music and honestly just did it because they grew up around it themselves. And so for me, being the kid of a grandfather who was a pastor, a mom and a grandfather, they all, in church, just straight up, like, that was the culture, you feel me, growing up. It's like you played something, you know what I mean? And that was the first, my first memory and first kind of what I call introduction to music was through church family, you know what I mean? I think at one point I wanted to make some money, so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll be a pharmacist. I had that whole working 9 to 5 energy, but then I think that didn't last very long. It was very short-lived. I got to high school and realized that music was definitely something I wanted to do. And I think a lot of that was just, your parents growing up in a middle-class black family. You go to college, you get a good job, raise your family. But little did I know, creative lifestyle and entrepreneurship was something that I was going to really dive into. And it was going to be, honestly, my life.
I almost dropped my chain, almost lost myself. I almost sat at the table, but instead I up and left. My mind's made up, no more running from it. My time's not up, I'm ready to ride, I'm ready to ride. Yeah.
To be honest, I'm 100% a victim of my parents' playlist because, again, my grandfather was a pastor. He sung a lot of old traditional gospel songs that had that what I call that fire and brimstone energy to it. And then my dad was also a gospel songwriter, so he wrote a lot of gospel songs. And my mom, being a minister of music, being someone who sung, I had this huge gospel playlist. It wasn't until I became about, I say 13, where I got really deeply into jazz and started checking out the history and the lineage of the great jazz composers, the Duke Ellingtons of the world, the Thelonious Monks, the Miles Davis, the Charles Mingus. That, to me, opened up my entire world for what music and black music was really all about. There was definitely a push and pull between, I won't say secular music or secular or sacred music. It just was, my grandfather raised us to in my opinion, to come back and be a part of the church. You know what I'm saying? And my mom, I'm really thankful for her because she pushed me. My mom saw very early that she wanted me to be sustainable and be able to have a career that did not depend on the church. She wanted me to have a career that really was about the art form music. And so I went to arts programs and art school ever since I was in 6th grade, learning how to read music, learning how to perfect my craft. And so here I am now, with a master's degree in music and jazz studies, with a deep understanding of the lineage of black music. And I kind of thank my mom for that. But I'm reared by my grandfather because he reared me with the lineage of what the music and gospel music was all about. I take that, you put that with my education and my learning and the apprenticeship that I've been able to get from great mentors. And here I am now standing on the backs of the entire lineage of black music, spiritually as well as practically sound.
Be free. Be free, yeah.
I have a really interesting story because most people know me as a drummer. A lot of people know me from a lot of my career started as a drummer, playing for a lot of artists that you may know. I won a very prestigious award called the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Competition, which actually got me a buttload of money and a record deal with Concord Records. When I got that record deal, though, I got the record deal as a drummer. And if anybody knows that award, it's a pretty big deal. It's like the golden key to your career, Long story short, I took the record deal and I said, you know what? I want to sing. I'm a singer At heart, that was what I feel like my soul was telling me to do. And I did it. It was kind of a gamble because the label didn't necessarily want me to do it. But when I did it, my first album got a Grammy nomination for Best Jazz Vocal Album. And that was a big deal for me. I thought about the fact that every idea and sound that I had in my head musically involved my voice. You know, my approach to playing the drums has always been melody driven. I've always been thinking about melody and song. I never thought about rhythms like that. It was all about melody. And so for me, I toyed with like, what is my concept? Like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna put out an album playing drums? Like, I don't wanna hear that, you know? And I'm a drummer, but I don't wanna hear an album full of drums. I wanna hear some songs. I wanna hear some stories. And it led me on a great path that connected me to my roots and now has me redefining and being a part of defining the sound of soul music for this era.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
There was definitely growth taking place from my first to second album. And if I was able to do my second album again, I really feel like I was trying to make my third album. Like the third album, J-Mo, which is the album that most people know me for now, honestly, and they don't even know the drummer. They just know the guy who sings Tell Me You Love Me. You know, that album is the album that I was really trying to make on my second go around. But sometimes you don't have the right people around you yet. You don't have the right environment, the right people pushing the right buttons, the right people telling you that it's okay to be yourself, the right people telling you that it's okay for you to write songs that are about you and the authenticity of what you're about. I didn't have that around me yet. And so hence my second album was cool, and I toured NDRE. We opened up with her. We did a lot of great things with that album. All for One, by the way, that's the title. But my third album, to me, I was already trying to get there. And so that's why for me I'm so happy about what J-Mo has delivered and the sound and the concept of what J-Mo is all about. J-Mo happened song by song. It was a real craftsmanship. The process was like crafting a story, but also a sound. I wanted to really make soul music for the modern era, you know? And by doing that, to me, I had to tell real stories. I had to tell the truth about myself in ways that I hadn't been doing before. I had to be more vulnerable, more honest musically with my lyrics, but also with my harmonic choices. Everything, every process of J-Mo had to be so vulnerable and so real in order for me to get my goal out. I heard the sound in my head, but I also heard the message. You feel me? I heard the vulnerability that I wanted to give people, and I wanted to kind of get rid of what I call that performance perspective that comes from playing jazz. Because, you know, no offense to a lot of the music that I love so much, sometimes the performance and the skill takes more precedent than the actual story and the spirit of the music. And to me, my team will tell you, I'm so passionate about the music. I also spent quite a few years in school studying it, and I had to find out what education was going to be for me, right? You know, so when you go to college, they tell you what they want you to learn, but you have to find your own voice inside of all that knowledge, you know? And as I went down my rabbit hole to find out who I was through the lineage of the greats, I start finding these names, you know, names like Rance Allen, you know, Al Green. I start peeping their trajectory as they matriculated through their careers and how they got to where they were. And to be honest, man, some of my favorite hip hop artists and some of my favorite hip hop music is informed by a lot of these musicians, you know? Like the producers know what's up, you know?
I really need your voice.
The biggest challenge in me making J-Mo, my third album, was not being lazy while adding modern production tactics. Me and my production partner, John Michael Rochelle, who's to me a genius of technology, but also understanding how to get an artist to think about the big vision of what they're trying to do. One of my biggest challenges was I wanted to keep the water. If you know my music and study my path, like I'm a musician. I am a lover of melody, of harmony, of rhythm, of chord progressions. So for me, I don't like to simplify it. I want to find out what inspired us and let's stay as close to that as possible, right? So in making soul music, it wasn't that I was trying to make R&B or make soul. It was like I was trying to bare my soul first, right? which encompasses my story, but also my musical expertise, my taste. And that to me is why J-Mo has what I call that velvet kind of like rich, mature sound to it, because that's where I'm coming from. It took me a year and some change to make J-Mo. I toured quite a bit, to be honest. I was on the road. I was also touring. I'm part of a band called Snarky Puppy. That's a Grammy Award winning ensemble. So I was on the road playing drums, like honestly making a living to make the record. You feel me? Sitting in the studio and making albums for free, that's not realistic these days, right? Unless you got a label giving you a ton of money. But what I had to do was be resourceful. So I took my time. I made the music. It was a pandemic record. We came out of the pandemic. I toured the world. We got a great plan for how to put out J-Mo. And that's why I'm here today, man, because we really put what I call the soulful artistry to work in every area. Business is art too. How you roll out an album is art too. Marketing is art. Radio players, it's art. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be very strategic and intentional about every process. And to be honest, man, the 4-year gap, it literally started. I would say 6 months into the pandemic, where we're like, okay, you know what? How are we going to like progress and get this sound? Remember, I told you I was already hearing the sound. I was already on my way to that record. Right. And so to me, the time we spent, man, was just well worth it. It was, and here I am now, and I'm not stopping. Something I did find in J-Mo, right? It wasn't that J-Mo was a blueprint, but the space I was in was the blueprint. So I will probably always take that as what I call a skeleton and use it, meaning pull away, like let the music hit you. And when it does, don't think twice. I think for me, so many artists, and I do this too, man, you can edit yourself before you actually have an idea. Like you can actually be changing everything about your inspiration before you even put it out. And so for me with J-Mo, it was literally first idea down, song. Like inspiration, when it came, funnel all the way through to the finish line. Not that whole process where you start second guessing yourself, wondering, is people gonna like this? Or what is this? Or is this genre? Is this appropriate? Is this jazz? Is this? Nah, that day is over for me. When I tell you, I am literally like, if I hear it, it's coming out.
What I need is, what I need is, freedom ain't easy. Set me tripping with you is more.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the J-Mo tour is in full effect. We've been all around the U.S. so far. We sold out Charlotte, Tampa. We were in Jacksonville. We went to New York, Philly, Chicago. I mean, we've been moving. Tonight's L.A. We got a big year ahead of touring J-Mo and promoting it. Man, y'all can follow me at JamisonRossMusic.com, on IG, Jamison_Ross, Twitter, Jamison_Ross with the I, not an E. Jamison_Ross as well on Facebook. Wherever y'all find Jamison Ross, you'll see Jamison Ross. You know what I'm saying? Hi, my name is Jamison Ross. You have just been buzzed.